apologies. Declaration of interest. I'm assuming there are no further declarations other than those already submitted to the monitoring officer. Chairperson's announcements. I'll just read some of this out. Serena, welcome back.
Thank you
We
very
were
much.
just talking earlier. I can't believe that's a year. Honestly, it really feels like, just a couple of months ago. Anyway, great to have you back. Look forward to, hopefully you'll have seen a change between
Yes.
a year ago and now. And also formally welcome Liam, our new Director of Finance, and also a welcome to Area Manager Mark Cabell, who's not in the room but is in the building. So welcome to him. He's come from West Sussex. That's right. West Sussex. Yeah. A couple of it's good news. We've got some recently nominated members. Brigade of the Cardiff and Vale Apprenticeship Awards. James Miller won the Sector Apprenticeship and Keris Howell won the Practitioner Awards. So well done to them. Also, extending congratulations to Watch Manager Richie Matthews, Keris Howell, Firefighter James Miller, who was shortlisted for the NFCC National Apprenticeship Awards. Firefighter Miller won the Apprentice of the Year Award, and Watch Manager, I think, won the Outstanding Apprenticeship Support Award. Really pleasing to see how the Brigade is now being recognised at the national level for excellence. Also, we're all aware that we're celebrating our 30th anniversary here at headquarters on Saturday, the 28th of March. Service retirement ceremony was held at Fire Service headquarters on the Wednesday the 4th of March, which included the family of retirees. I went to that myself, and I would say that I think the chief made a point about how we welcome people into the organisation formally, and actually we don't always say thank you formally. So I thought it was a really good thing. I hope it's something that grows from strength to strength, some small beginnings. But I think as word gets around that it's a good thing. I think for me, the bit that strikes me most about it is it's the families that get a chance to come in and see that final part, because they're generally at the pass out parade. And to see them at the closure is really, really important. And having spoken to the families, they really appreciated it. So I think it's something that's really worthwhile. And then we've got, someone's going to have to come up with an acronym for this. The Operational Training, Leadership and Personal Development Academy. There must be an acronym. Proudly marked International Women's Day on the 5th of March, bringing together colleagues for a programme of keynote inputs, interactive learning and structured reflection, which focused on celebrating women's achievements, recognising the lived experience and continuing the progress on gender equality, which has come a long way, but still got a long way to go. Okay, thanks. Moving on then to the minutes. Previous meeting. Agreed, this record, any variants? The update on the outstanding issues. Target dates now. So the first one is 30th June, 20th June, 31st July. And so next one.
Well, this is the one that's owned by myself and Adam. So we've committed to set up a working group to review how this organisation deals with service documents across the board, so not just policies and procedures. Because I think my initial investigations disclosed we had in excess of 600 documents across this service. So what I've attempted to do is set up some draft terms of reference for that working group, which is set out in the update. Adam and I need to talk about how we're going to resource this work, because there needs to be a big assessment of what we've got currently and how that could be improved going forward. It may well be that we need external support for that piece of work, because I think workloads at the moment are such that we just haven't got the time to invest in it. We were asked at the Strategic Change, Transformation and Culture Committee to come up with a proposal, and I've agreed to do that by the end of March. I may or may not have some costings by the end of March, but anyway, Adam and I, there is an action we've taken away. We know it's urgent. We've got to resource.
He talked to me about it the other day, because I think if we try to put anything new in place, there isn't a proper framework that's existing to get it.
Exactly. So it is very much in hand. It's just it's not where I want it to be yet.
So any ballpark dates?
Until I know what the working group's going to look like and how it's resolved. If it's external, you see, it will be probably quicker, but it will also mean I can then specify depending their availability.
You can what, an update in the next committee?
Yes, I mean your next meeting after this is going to be the Board of Commissioners on 22nd. I would hope we have the work started very much by then. I don't want to delay it until then.
Was it easy to figure out that we've got 600 plus policies? Is it easy? Because I'll be curious about our family group.
Yeah, I'll send you the breakdown. I've got it by email because I was shocked.
I was wondering about other brigades. Do they do it with 200? Do they do it with 700? Are we way off kilter? Are we under the?
There must be a service who does this well, and rather than reinvent the wheel.
So the HMI website
yes.
would probably be a good place for
yes.
someone to research out, which is a good brigade in terms of governance. It'd just be useful. If they're doing it with 150, we know we've got a long way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, right. Next one's first of May.
I think the safeguarding one was hopefully one we could close. It was just you asked for a breakdown. So I think Matt provided that update for you.
Right, and then one on page 15, that's in the agenda. Right. Anyone got anything they want to say about Matt's Rising? Okay, good. Right, moving on then, People Services Plan. Alison?
Thank you, Chair. So the report asks People Committee to approve the refreshed People Services Plan for 2026 to 2030. The plan has been refreshed to incorporate the HMI recommendations, reflections on the Morris report, and it contains 6 key aims. So I'll take you through those. I'm working on the basis that you've all had a chance to read the plan. The first aim, which is on page 25 of the pack, sets out an aim around attraction and retention of high-performing individuals. There are a set of key objectives within that aim and an indicative measures of success. Second area is around developing leadership capabilities so that the service is positioned to respond to future challenges. We'll talk more about that in terms of the work we've been doing with the Leadership Academy later. The third area is around growing our existing employees and investing in them to create a high-performing culture. The fourth area is around the provision of people services, so providing excellent people services. The next area is around DICE, so making sure our culture reflects diversity, inclusion, cohesion and equity in all that we do. And then there's a final aim, which is around our health and well-being and psychological safety work. In refreshing the plan, it was discussed at a recent executive leadership team meeting, and some tweaks have been made following that discussion. And the other thing to say is we've been doing a lot of work on our strategic performance indicators, so our KPIs at a strategic level. We have linked those to the plan, and we've also built into our local objectives and local performance indicators the work of this plan. So basically there's alignment from that golden thread right across and down into the teams within people services. So as I said, it wasn't planned to go through every aspect of the plan. I'm working on the basis that you've all had a chance to read it, but happy to take any questions on it.
Any comments on I've got a couple of things. Yeah, great. You read these and sort of think, well, yeah, we would want to do that. We want our people to be able to do this. It's good that we've got a measure there. So the first question before I come back to the measures, it talks in 5.1 about financial implications and technological support, which means additional expenditure. That within the budget that we've got going forward?
So that's linked to an element of the digital strategy that's coming forward to the Board of Commissioners next Friday, and there's commentary around that, around how ultimately we need to use available resources initially. Yeah. They should bring back inefficiencies that can be fair to with that.
Right, so this will be
Yes. Yeah.
So these measurements are the systems, because we have the 88 or what's 88 key performance indicators. These there's quite a few here. Are these part of those 88 or are these separate? And are there systems behind there to collect all the data?
Yeah, so there are systems behind there and they link directly into our people services objectives. So
Right.
through our performance appraisals and our measurement of how we're doing against these objectives, we will report back to a people committee against those.
Right. So they are linked to people's individual
Yeah,
performance appraisals. These ones, right? Good. And then I think what would be useful is at least every year, because is it a 4-year plan?
yes.
Yeah. That we have be useful to have know what our baseline is.
Mhm.
Then we can see what we are in year 1, year 2, year 3.
Yeah.
So do we have a baseline?
We do question the credibility because of our system problem. So
Okay.
I wouldn't want to trust it 100%, but we've got
Right.
some.
So it'd be useful to have a baseline with the commentary that dependent on system changes. Okay. Yep. Thanks. Moving on to the next item. Item 7. The terms of reference related to people.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So in a letter to employees of South Wales Fire and Rescue Service dated the 6th of February, which is at Appendix 1, the Deputy Minister for Social Partnership set out new arrangements for the governance of the service. This includes the appointment of 4 commissioners to run the service. What this report is aiming to do is to pull out of the terms of reference within the Deputy Minister's letter progress against the people aspects of those terms of reference. So I've identified 3 areas. The first one is around the recommendations relating to the Morris report.
Yeah.
And I've linked through to documents there for members' information. The second area was to implement and establish a new senior management team. And I've included some narrative there around the new executive leadership team, which is pretty much completely new. And many of the members have been recruited externally. And then the third area was a process to identify historic grievance cases. And just to provide an update on where we are on those, there were 17 cases identified as part of this piece of work, and we have 1 that remains outstanding. That one is in progress at the moment and has been due to the health of the individual. So it's been prolonged slightly, but we're working through those matters at the moment.
Okay, right. I did smile when you said an almost new team. You're the institutional memory for the team.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, great. So going through the first one, I mean, a lot of these are contained in the work done by Dominic's people, aren't they? Anne-Marie's got all the data, we've been signing these off. I think the one that sort of probably still concerns us is the promotions one. I know it's due for completion before April 26, so I'm guessing that's going to be done in the next few weeks.
So there is a full update coming to board of the 7th, which includes some slightly updated figures around the recommendations based on the sign-off and evaluation that we did with commissioners last week or the week before. We had a detailed discussion around the promotion framework in the last service improvement board, which was the 12th of March. It's the chief's ambition to meet that timeline. And I know that Alison and Alicia have been doing some work with the DEB and the trade unions around discussion of the publication of those steps prior to the watch manager's process.
Yeah, so because we do get commentary from the representative bodies, we do get commentary from the staff side. This is the thing that sort of it is an issue which causes angst within the organisation.
So just to add to what Dominic said, we have developed a promotion process for Grey Book colleagues, and we've also developed the forthcoming watch manager process. We discussed that with the unions last Thursday afternoon. It was a very constructive discussion we had. We've taken their feedback away and we're meeting this afternoon to sign off those that discussion and to amend where we can the watch manager process. So we're sharing that out to the unions immediately after that meeting with a view to going live by the end of this month, and that will also include the promotion process generally. So we're aiming to achieve that end of March.
And then we've discussed this about the agreements. Yeah, we've had the discussions. Anyone got any further comments or observations they want to make in relation to these? This is part of the work, but it's also a mechanism by which we can cross off the side of it in relation to the requirements placed by the Welsh Government in terms of our terms of reference. So really, we've come a long way. And actually, every time I read that, Morris, it's 2 years ago, then I see you, it was 1 year ago. Time goes, 2 years. Right. Yeah, something less contentious, job evaluation.
So Natalie Howell's Okay. So the People Committee, I've just asked to scrutinise the content of this report and the progress and current operation of the job evaluation report. So between 2020 and 2022, the service undertook a comprehensive job evaluation exercise. And in October 2024, People Services established a job evaluation board, which is used to strengthen the support for the service and issue with the provision of effective and efficient assistance to managers in relation to job evaluation. So just an update. So a job evaluation procedure has been drafted. It has been with our trade unions for feedback. That feedback is currently being reviewed and the procedure will be updated accordingly with that feedback from the trade unions. And then the revised version. So obviously we've recently had the new governance board set up. So prior to going any role going into job evaluation, the request for a job evaluation will first need to go into the decision-making board before coming into the job evaluation board. So that will be included in the new job evaluation procedure. In addition to the procedure, we're also going to be creating a toolkit for employees and line managers on how to complete the relevant forms that will need to come into the job evaluation board. And obviously just reminding them as well of the process to go to the decision-making board. The job evaluation board then was set up in 24, so it operates by convening a panel. It's currently set up on a 1 day a month basis. However, we have recently reviewed the frequency of these meetings, and from April we will be introducing a board on a weekly basis. There will be one board available on a once a week for a 3-hour session. So to give us the opportunity to be able to reevaluate any roles more frequently and to help us with our backlog at the moment that we have. Once these dates have been confirmed, they will be published in advance to the service. We will also, if there's any urgent job evaluations that are done, we will consider reviewing those and taking those outside of the normal dates of the job evaluation board. And at present, we've got 5 individuals within People Services who are trained to undertake evaluations, so it's providing flexibility within the department should there be any absences. So just some overview of the total number of job evaluations that completed, which is in Appendix 1 of the report. So since 2020, we've undertaken 221 new job evaluations and have re-evaluated 916 roles. In the year to date, the rolling 12-month period, we've had 7 new evaluations and 20 re-evaluations. And in the last 6 months, we've undertaken 1 new job evaluation and 4 re-evaluations. So the new evaluations are new posts that are introduced into the service prior to any recruitment activities being undertaken, and then re-evaluations are conducted when posts within any departments have had any significant changes or there's been a restructure within a department. We also evaluate posts over time using a rolling programme. I think at the moment we set at a 10-yearly programme.
at an employee's request. So if they feel that they are doing additional duties which is outside of the original job description, then they can make a request for their role to be re-evaluated. That's the application.
Anyone got anything to say? I've got just a couple of comments. So I was just trying to tally the data on the request on 4.4 with the appendix 1 data. So according to the data on appendix 1, page 47, we haven't done any last week. We haven't done any last. We've done 2 last month, and we've done 5 in the last 6 months. So that would appear to be quite low demand.
So we the data figures here are at the time that I produced the report. So we did hold a job evaluation board last week, so they have not been included.
Okay. Is there a big list backlog?
So we've got April now. We've got 4 dates in April, and 3 of those dates are already full with job evaluations. And
Right.
we'll also complete them outside of our job evaluation board as well. So
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
It'd probably be useful in that table. Then it'd be useful to know how many are in train, because
Yeah.
what we're talking about here in 4.4 is increasing the number of panels that we want. And I just looked at thinking, talking about increasing the panels, and then you look at the last 6 months and we haven't had that many. Or have we got a number?
we've got a number coming up as well. There's some
Okay, fine.
restructures and ongoing within some departments, so they are going to be upcoming as well. So if you going forward, we can start including the data of
Right.
the upcoming job evaluations as well.
So the job evaluations are then demand led rather than supply driven.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Anyone else? Right. Independent review of services.
Okay, so this report provides the committee with a high-level overview of the emerging themes arising from the independent review of people services. We appointed a consultancy under the Crown Commercial Services Framework to undertake the review. Appendix 1 contains the terms of reference for the review, and these were agreed by the executive leadership team and commissioners prior to going out to procure the organisation. The review commenced, as the report says, on the 26th of January, and the team have been meeting or have met a number of key stakeholders. In addition to the list provided in 4.1, they've responded quite agilely to independent and individual requests for conversations. So we haven't limited the conversations to the stakeholders at 4.1, where we've had somebody come to us and say, I've got something I'd like to share. We've allowed that to happen. I asked the team to provide me with some emerging thoughts, conscious that People Committee was happening today, and paragraph 4.3 and 4.4 are the emerging thoughts from the company. So I'll just read those out for committee awareness. So the findings highlight opportunities to significantly strengthen, modernise and professionalise the HR function so that it can be better enable organisational performance. The review has identified notable gaps in clarity, consistency and alignment across people services, which are limiting its ability to operate as a cohesive and strategically focused function. Central strategic observation emerging from the review is that the current operating model is misaligned with the organisational needs, operational realities and the strategic ambitions of South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. So we're expecting a final report from the consultancy, which is due by the end of this month. And the plan then will be to take any emerging recommendations to an appropriate commissioners committee meeting. I know that there is an extraordinary committee meeting being scheduled for May, so my expectation is that would feed into that meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
So working backwards to mention for you, I guess this was commissioned before you arrived.
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah.
You were asking for your sign off at 5.1.
No, that was already,
That was already done.
that was done at the extraordinary finance and audit meeting.
Right.
I think back in October, but it was authorised from reserves.
Okay, right. So in the slide, the first thing is it's a slide deck, isn't it? It's kind of-
Yes, there's a draft slide pack that has been shared with us in terms of how they've done the review, how they've mapped the evidence and information, which we're currently working through, with the aim of them providing us a final pack.
So 'cause normally you get a draft report for which you do accuracy and fact checking stuff, don't you?
And that's what we're doing
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Based on the slide deck or the report?
on the slide deck. We haven't had a report yet.
Yeah, because the slide deck doesn't give context, does it?
No.
It just gives a series of bullet points.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I guess we can't be fully confident until we get the full
Final,
report, isn't it? But the slide deck is the direction of travel of the report.
Yes, it is.
That's something that should say managing things. And May. But by the time the report comes in, you'll have already said, you've already looked at these are the things and we're underway with it.
Yeah, and I think the draft slide deck that we've had, the sort of direction of travel there, I would say there's probably no surprises. Yeah, I think that the plan will be then to present a full report with their recommendations to committee in May.
There was one thing in there that the slide deck, is it the old brick model?
The LRIC model,
Ulrich
yes.
Is it, I mean, I'm not an HR sort of groupie on this. So I mean, is this, where does that sit in the scheme of things? Is
It's
it-
a traditional model, I would say. It's tried and tested. So it's a model I worked with previously. I've seen across government, UK Gov. It's I would say it's quite, I don't want to say old, but it's
not contemporary.
it's established. No, it's not. Yes, it's not contemporary. So
We probably need to look at the wider operating environment to see if Ulrich in its truest form works. And given the change and transformation that the service is going through, a true Ulrich, we probably need a hybrid of it rather than a true Ulrich. You need to be cognizant of the operating environment, and we're going through significant change and transformation. It's not a stable environment, whereas Ulrich probably works really, really well when everything's stable.
Yeah, I always think I always feel that this thing's a bit like buying software. You know, we often say, oh, the organisation works a particular way, so therefore we need to have the software made bespoke to fit us. Exactly, if we did it the other way around, try to fit in with the system, then when all the updates, the upgrades and the interlocking come in, we're already good to go. Are we so different that an Ulrich model would be, if it works everywhere else? I mean, I quite like contemporary things. I mean, I'm wary of using an old model, but if it's fit for purpose, is it a question of, do we adjust towards it, or are we trying to get it to adjust towards us?
So
It's probably a hybrid.
Yeah.
Because you've got to look at our digital
Yeah.
our digital systems, and that there are two things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So if digital was maybe a little bit stronger, we'd probably be able to go to a pure Ulrich. So it's a phasing approach, I think,
Yeah.
will need to be adopted.
So it's a model that we would aim
yes.
for in hybrid because of the nature of where we're at. Right. Anyone else? Other people can talk. So it's a bit lonely.
There was another option, is the Ulrich Plus as well.
Yeah,
as discussed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tinker it slightly.
Yeah.
So we've created a business partner model, and Ulrich does have business partners in there, but there's different ways of slicing them. You can have them sitting alongside Ulrich as a team, or you can embed them into the model. So there's a conversation with the consultancy, I think, around where do we end up. Ulrich Plus is probably it, I
Yeah.
would suggest.
Maybe worth also leaning. I just noticed yesterday that Greater Manchester had received outstanding in a number of areas. I think their people was one of it. So it would probably be worth looking at Greater Manchester. I know it's scheduled for us to go up there in April, but it was looking at how they structure their people services.
Yeah, okay, good. I mean, I think it's always useful to look at the best in class and see where they're aligned to the sector demands. So it's interesting. There's something obviously happening in the north, but Lancashire did really well. Now it's Manchester. Do you think it's the water up there? And do you think they're drinking from the same reservoir?
I'm sharing their ideas.
They've got higher water pressure.
Yeah, well,
Okay, right. Next one is page 57, sickness, absence and wellbeing.
Yeah, so the People Committee asked to note the position of the financial year for Q3 of this financial year, note December 25 and January 26 outturn, note and comment on the proposed changes in the draft attendance management procedures, and note the introduction of two mechanisms that have been established to strengthen the efforts to reduce sickness absence levels and to support the health and well-being of our people. So just a bit of background. So the service has seen a significant increase in its sickness absence levels. In October 2025, we became the first Welsh Fire and Rescue Service to report into the NFCC on our sickness absence data. 40 services also provided a data in Q2 report, and our service had the highest percentage of shifts lost to sickness absence per full-time firefighter. So obviously this report was providing you analysis on the current sickness absence levels and the work that's been undertaken to reduce our levels. So if we look at Q3, there was a 6.2% increase in the total number of shifts lost in December compared to November. This rise was driven by an increase in our short-term absences. So there was a link to a spike in cold and flu absences. Although short-term sickness absence did increase in December, the total number of shifts lost actually remained lower in December compared to October. Mental health and musculoskeletal remain the two top reasons for sickness absence across the service. In December, mental health accounted for 37% of our absences and musculoskeletal 23%. But these have continued to decline since October 2025. And in Q2, we had 2 personnel who retired from the service on the grounds of ill health, and we have a further 9 employees who are currently progressing through the ill health retirement process. So appendix to our local performance indicators for January 2026. So we've seen 11% increase in the total number of shifts lost in January compared to December. Mental health and musculoskeletal remained the top 2 reasons for sickness absence. However, we did see again a decrease in the number of shifts lost in January compared to December. And there was a reduction in long-term sickness absence from 72% in December to 66% in January. And I've just had our data for February, and there's some good news to share. So we've had a decrease again of 24% from January sickness absence. So our sickness absence is going in the right direction. So the suite of attendance management policies and procedures have been drafted. They've been with trade unions for feedback. We've received feedback from the FBU, and we haven't received anything from corporate unions. So the new attendance management procedure is a new robust procedure which will introduce regular wellbeing support meetings at certain stages throughout a long-term sickness absence that was not previously in our previous procedure. And these meetings are not to pressurise anybody in coming back to work, but they are around supporting people and focusing on their welfare and what steps we can take to support them in coming back to work. The modified duties procedure, so that's going to be replacing our restricted duties procedure, which is currently at 6 weeks, which we'll be looking to extend a period of modified duties up to 3 months. To support employees remaining in work, with also the flexibility to extend beyond 3 months. And that will be subject to a case review with key stakeholders around the table to make that decision if we extend past 3 months. And this approach also aligns with the Keep Britain Working report, which highlights the critical role of employers in preventing avoidable job loss and providing early, sustained and proactive support to help individuals remain in the workplace. We're also going to be introducing a medical redeployment procedure. So this new medical redeployment procedure will ensure that employees who are unable to continue in a substantive role due to illness will be placed in the redeployment pool. Their skills will be assessed against any vacant posts before they are advertised. So anybody who's facing job loss through ill health will get preferential treatment of any vacancies if they've got the required skills to meet the requirements of that role, and also with any additional training that will be required. So we also sought advice from our occupational health colleagues around sickness absence over 28 days. Oc Health have confirmed operational staff will be required to be assessed by an occupational health physician before returning to work if they've been absent for more than 28 days. And if they've been absent for more than 3 months, they will be required to undertake a fitness test due to the safety critical nature of their role. We've also established 2 new meetings. So there's the sickness, wellbeing and attendance review meeting, which is chaired by myself, and also the business partner for welfare and wellbeing, and there's occupational health colleague there. And the purpose of that meeting is for us to identify trends in sickness absence, look at our long-term sickness absence, and look at cases where we could look to progress and support them in returning to work. That is then fed into the sickness, wellbeing and attendance task force, which is chaired by the DCFO with other stakeholders. And the terms of reference for those both meetings have been drafted, and currently we're in the process of writing a data protection impact assessment, which is near completion.
Okay, so first of all, we're in a really bad place when it comes to sickness. You know, we are arguably one of the worst, one of the 3 worst performing brigades in this area. There are a whole load of things. Is it that we've got the right policies and they're not applied, or is it that we've got a full range of policies? I know that you said we've got feedback from the FBU. That's good. I mean, the other rep bodies haven't responded. How long did we go out?
So it actually went out on the 12th of November last year, and we had feedback on the 2nd of March.
So consultation is normally 28 days. 28 days.
Yeah.
28 days.
Yeah. So we're way beyond consultation timelines on this, even with, we'll double the consultation, still missing out. There's the thing about the public sector bodies get confused between informing, consulting and negotiating. And I'll just say it almost for the record. Informing is telling people you're going to do something, we're going to paint them all red. Consulting is, you have to be open-minded to consult on the basis that something comes back from the other party to persuade you to change your mind. And negotiating is you can't move forward without agreement. So here we've consulted, and if some people don't like it, and we still are persuaded that we want to do it, we can still do it. We don't have to get full agreement. So it depends on the list, and this was particular terms and conditions which we need to get really on. So we need to make sure that, because we've been very slow on this. I mean, you know, we've tried to do the right thing, tried to do the nice thing. Now we've gone out in November, and it's now coming up towards April before we haven't got feedback from some groups. We do need to crack on with it. I think also, I know that the deputy's got the task group, and they're going, so I'm hoping that that's going to be a channel by which this is sort of resolved. Looking at the reductions, we have to be careful that we don't get lulled into, yeah, we've got a grip of this because we've got reductions. Sickness will follow a seasonal pattern. There'll be Easter, summer and Christmas. We're coming out of Christmas, which is why we're seeing the reductions, and it'd be really nice if this continued through Easter, but we shall see. So I sit on a board in the NHS, and people get really excited in a negative way if the sickness goes above 5+%. But yeah, we're looking in way into double digits here. So there's a thing that even if we've got it at 9%, we're still doing really badly. So we need to, it might be a thing for to mention to, you know, what are the policies and procedures they got? Have we got all of what they've got? We need to look at the, you know, otherwise we're trying to do it from point of perspective of where we're at, whereas we need to be looking to share and understand and learn from others. If someone else is managing to crack this, then we should be going up and seeing them. I don't think there's any problem if people want to go to the best performing organisations in the sector, find out how they do it. Because what would be worse would be we're in a bad position in 3 months' time and saying, well, who did you go and see? Well, we haven't. Please don't be in that position, because we're not accessing all the information and knowledge that would enable us to practice. Because this is a bit of a conundrum for us. We've not been able to break this cycle. So we need to do something.
When we revised the procedures last year, we did that. We did that
Good.
benchmarking exercise. We were part of the NFCC workplace groups. So we did all that up front in revising the procedures. And that very much factored in the end product that was sent to the unions in November.
Because the thing is, if it's already in place in another brigade, it's already been agreed by the FBU and Unison and Unite.
So I think, Chair, the policies and procedures are one thing. I think,
Implemented.
yeah, implementing them in practice. So I think it links back to the point that Amanda made earlier around this whole suite of policies and procedures. Even if they're there, people are not sure where to find them. But then it's about people being aware of the policies, but not working in line with them as well. So I think it's a much wider problem than just getting the policies right. And this is in any organisation I've worked in. You can have the best policies in the world, if they're not followed, then it's not going to help you.
Oh yeah, but not having the best policies is not a good place either. So I guess the thing is, it's about performance management as well. Are we doing things like return to work interviews to the right standard, to the right frequency? Are they all completed within time?
So there are local performance indicators, and we've introduced dashboards for the people service advisors to work with line managers. We've also, you'll be familiar with the Helen Isles training. So we're developing bespoke training for line managers in managing wellbeing and welfare. And that's all diarised now for June and July. And all station commanders and above and equivalent will be going through that training. And then we'll be embedding that with junior officers.
And I think as well, so I think being consistent in our approach is really important, because if you get a couple of station commanders really operating to the spirit of policies, they'll say, hang on, we've been treated less favourably than all our mates at all the other stations. None of this happens to them. Why us? And we need to. So the people that are applying it, we don't need them as outliers. We need them to be seen as, it's just the normal way things are done. Because otherwise we end up in a right mess.
Chair, just to add, so you will have noticed in Appendix 2, so you mentioned return to work interviews, and there were 75, and that's marked as a red, 75 outstanding. So we talked recently, and we said to Nat, if there are problems at station level with doing undertaking these, and they need to be escalated to Matt and myself. So we need to be made aware of, what's happening on the ground, so that we can facilitate that change.
So we've created a new report with the support of our ICT colleagues, who now we are now able to see. So our return to work form currently has 3 stages to it,
Right.
which is, I think, is causing some issues as well with application. But the new report that we've had created now allows us to see at what stage of somebody's return to work with, so we are able to chase that with the relevant commanders. Another piece of work is that we are looking by the end of April to remove the form P57, as there is now a new facility and function to have the return to work completed within the People XD system, which will then reduce the 3 steps and reduce the risk of us not receiving the completed return to work form, which I think the biggest problem is the last stage. People forget that once the return to work form is be completed by themselves and the line manager, it then needs to have a final sign off, which then delays that form coming into people services.
The other thing is the quality of the return to work there, and that it's not a tick box exercise, but it's a quality discussion.
Yes, I mean, so do we QA this?
So this is part of the work that we will be doing.
Sometimes that this is one of the key parts, is this one of the key things that influences people's behaviour is their relationship with their immediate line manager. So it's really, really important that that's sorted out. I mean, I'm not in for people coming to work sick, but I do think there is a thing about how it's viewed. I know when I joined many moons ago, we've had all sorts of shadow systems and all sorts of weird and wonderful ways of gaming systems. I think nowadays we've got, proper in-house occupational health department, we've got gyms on stations, we've got advisors, we've got people that can support people around well-being. It's available to Green Book and Grey Book staff. There are less reasons to, one would think would be a fitter, healthier organisation. Certainly with the physical fitness assessments, the information would be that we've got a healthy organisation because people don't do these assessments. Yet we seem to have a very high level of sickness. So anyway, when I retired, I got a certificate from some of my team. I hadn't taken sick leave for the previous 19 years, 11 months. So sickness, I found that when I meet with other groups of people, sickness can be like a religious thing. Some people really have a thing about never being sick at work. Other people think it's just a thing. The issue is if you're ill, by all means be off sick. You need to come back to work at some point. Use the systems that are available.
Sorry, but there is a generational thing with that you speak about for when you didn't go sick for 19 years. And the other thing is that, when you look at mental health, it is an epidemic across the UK, not just within the fire and rescue service, whether it's the NHS, Ministry of Justice and so on.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not saying that. Well, I'm saying that go sick is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if people need the time off, then they need the time off.
Yeah.
We need to make sure they're accessing it so that they can return to work as fast as possible.
Presenteeism can be just as damaging as absenteeism as well.
Yeah.
So we also
I'll
had
go
a,
sick then.
we also had a meeting with the firefighter charity yesterday, so they've agreed to do some additional work with us. So we're looking to bring them into the service and get them out visiting all our stations and departments to explain the work that they do them in the firefighters charity as well, and hopefully that can
Did they discuss the resilience programs which they're bringing in and they use with other services from people returning from sickness?
yes.
I think that's probably something we need to explore as a mandatory requirement for people returning from the sick.
Yeah.
It seems to be quite a good program that's used for that as well.
If you're off sick for 28 days, you have to go back through OHU. That's right. Sorry, this.
Yes.
Yes, more so for operational staff. Corporate staff, we probably would be able to, because they're not in unless they're in a safety critical corporate role, they would need to be assessed.
Can they get these appointments swiftly? Is there? They don't have to wait 3 weeks to
That's
get
one question. That's I was one of the questions I was going to ask. But then topped on, does it have to be face to face?
Some are, I think some are, I think it all depends on the
I
doctor.
just want to speed it up and
We have no back.
things.
There's no backup appointments.
Okay.
Yeah.
George,
Just going to say there are pockets of rotational sickness as well, and which was common back 20 years ago, but there are still pockets of that, which would suggest there needs to be a behavioural change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so we can talk about it in this meeting, but the place it's going to be done is outside this office, at the fire stations, and it's going to be done essentially through all the people that work for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on then, something much less contentious. The implementation of the Operational Training Leadership and Personal Development Academy. Who's got that? Yeah.
Well, I'll,
George?
do you want me to?
You start, Arlie.
No, so I was just going to do
It's after you, no, after you.
You first, Mark.
A brief intro and I'll hand over to George. So as committee members will be aware, we launched I need to put my teeth in for this, Operational Training, Leadership and Personal Development Academy last April on the 28th. This is located at our Cardiff Gate Centre, and in shaping the academy, we mobilised internal resource to support the delivery of the new leadership programmes. Almost 1 year on, we thought it right to bring an update to People Committee, and what the report tries to do is share with you the programme of activity over the last year, but also share the thinking around the resourcing model moving forward. We appointed the lead on a fixed term contract, and we are planning to extend that contract until the end of May to allow us to look at the resourcing model going forward. And that will tie in with a wider look at our operating model across the service. So that's all I want to say by way of intro. So George, do you want to take us through not just the training, but also the doctrine that you've created and launched as well?
Sure. So over the past 12 months, it's been a busy sort of time for academia wise for the Academy. So we created the doctrine, for which there is a bite-sized version of doctrine as well. So if people look at the doctrine lands with them, and it's a very chunky document, but there is a bite-sized doctrine to accompany a video as well. So the video has literally been completed this morning.
Oh,
Yeah. So I can share that with people later after this meeting, of course. It's been to the CFO and he's had some minor adjustments, but by all accounts, it's good to go. So we'll be able to go on that quite soon. So several other pieces of paperwork as well, and not just the doctrine, but it's the Just Culture doctrine as well, which it seems to have landed very well with Craig's initiative of One Team, One Vision as well. And that's also had really good feedback from watchers as to the feedback was it's about time kind of comments that we have a just culture as opposed to a blame culture. There's also a behavioural response framework on there as well for the Academy, because what I discovered through Q&As was that people didn't really know if there was any particular poor behaviour or anything like that. People didn't know how to react to it or how to signpost for it as well. So that's on there. And delivering positive action. And this is in response to things that rotate around International Women's Day, comments, things like that. It's not just internal comments, but it's also external comments as well. Things that happen on our death scrolling Facebook and Instagram, things like that, and how to react to somebody that's saying you only got this job, ... And so delivering positive action statements on there as well. Hopefully eases some anxiety over people. How do I react to anybody saying to me, you only got that job, or you don't need X, Y, Z? Why do we need these things? Just rotating back to International Women's Day as well, there is what can only be described as quite a ravenous appetite for now a women's network. So yes, I think that's a really big positive step forward for the Academy. So the Academy is taking that on board to really direct that now. So we've got some meetings with external bodies now to see how they do it as well, which is very, very positive. I know we're looking at the paperwork and everything, just to rotate back to the Leading Yourself programme. Obviously, with the bring your attention to the appendix, there is a shift and change from the delivery of masterclasses. You'll note that there's a drop in delivery of masterclasses. And that's why we were reacting to the shift in appetite and how we deliver programmes. And I'm going to just put it out there as an early indicator of some positive behavioural change. So we launched the Leading Yourself programme, Foundations of Excellence, last November, and it came through the chief priority. So we had lots of people onboarding onto that, and we brought in the challenge-based learning as well. Off the back of that, some really good reviews. We've had people onboarding, wanting to come onto that course as opposed to being asked to go onto that course. So from a really good feedback perspective, we've had people actually asking us. As a result, the first course is now booked up. We have a waiting list for that course. This is not a mandated course. It is a Foundations of Excellence. And I think that is a really good reflection of some early indicators of behavioural change across the lower ranks and firefighters. So for us, we're taking that as a good positive shift. Al, is there anything else you need to go through? I've gone through the paperwork. That's just, oh yes, so we're having issues with the landing page at the moment, something to do with the cloud base. Don't ask me what that is. So I've temporarily put them onto the L&D landing page, the paperwork that's come through. Also, there's the performance room that's gone on there as well. So that went out in routine notice of encouraging people. To look at the performance room. It's an external website that people can have their own personal login for that. It's super cheap to run. You know, it's a couple of grand for a whole year's license, and it's unlimited memberships for that as well. So it's really, really cheap. So the Academy's focus is learning to living. So that's the first year, learning to living. So we're introducing leadership. You know, culture change happens over time. We're introducing leadership and we're learning how to live it as a behaviour as opposed to something that's a tick box exercise, because we all know we hate tick box exercises. So within that, the theme around the performance room is focused around learning to living. And there's links in that routine notice then that directs people to, specifically to items within the performance room, but they are also open to explore that entire site themselves. It only contains really positive stuff. It doesn't contain anything that's particularly contentious in there. I've gone through it and I've had several meetings, and there's nothing in there. It's not like Facebook or anything like that, where people are open to comments or anything like that. It's a personal journey web page that people can use, whether it's for their career development or whether it's for their personal development, whether they're doing Ironman, whether they're going to lead the function. It's got a little bit of everything on there. I've not looked at the statistics there, but early indicators are suggesting that people are starting to take it up in the early days. It's only been on the landing page for a week.
Oh.
So yeah. Routine notice again goes out again soon, so I'll be plugging that again. So in all, just moving forward and hopefully into 2026 and beyond, there's some positive, really early key indicators there that we're shifting in the right direction. And what the Academy has achieved in the last 12 months seems to have landed very well.
Good news, right? Financial implications, let's talk about temporary resource, talk about ongoing cost.
Yeah, so I think there's reserve funding set aside for a continued 12-month period. But I think the ask in the paper at this point is just to the end of May, just to the point you made, Alison, about the operating model. So yeah, that's all squared off.
Is the technology where you want it?
As in a landing page?
And as in what you think would, because the part of the Academy which is virtual, which would imply that's technological.
Yes. Yeah.
So does the actual technology that we've got match the aspiration that we have?
It will do when we make that shift. So I was quite adamant because the IT team have a lot going on at the moment, because we've got that shift moving from what our intranet currently looks like to what it's going to look like. So I've not put massive pressure on them to say I want this landing page done, because we're coming to full 12-month period here. So I didn't want them to duplicate any work, hate duplication, and I didn't want to make extra work for them. But it's not working out the way that they wanted to. And I think it's not just for the Academy, it's for the whole service. Yeah, so I've got a meeting with them later so we can have our own landing page. It won't function in the way that we want it to function, because if I stay in role, then I need to be able to update that without being reliant on ICT to do it for me, or other people to do it for me. Because the way that the Academy and the intellectual element of it moves quite quickly. So the different appetites and being fed in from a different organisation and how they do leadership and stuff. I mean, this is all fodder for people to take on board. The way the current setup for our intranet doesn't allow that. So it's going to be clunky until that is sorted out, unfortunately.
Okay, so
I may have something to add there as well, so I'll let you carry on.
all right. So just in relation to the IT thing, so it's within the scope of things that they've been asked to do. Because I think it's really important, whilst IT are trying to work out what it is that they need to get underway, but whoever's got an ask of them, it's in there, because otherwise we'll agree a plan for IT, and then this other thing, people will come back later saying, well, we've got this other.
I'd say it's not necessarily in that scope, predominantly because we're currently looking at and this is where the crossover, and obviously only been back 2 days, apologies George, because we haven't had a chance to catch up yet about everything, but something's on the agenda for people services now in terms of the learning and development side of it, is how we're providing our offering, because we know that we can't deliver everything face to face all the time. Very, very good for leadership development, but we need to start looking differently because of shift patterns and things like that. So we're looking at lunch and learns, we're looking at our eHub model, what the kind of learning stuff is on there. The learning management system that we've currently got will be in discussions with the revamp for core and what happens with that moving forward. So we will need to look at what that budget looks like. Currently, we've been paying around about £5,000 to £7,000 a year for the introduction of some of our e-learning modules, which have funded us to this point. But A, some of them are a little bit outdated. They still look like they're in the 80s with the shoulder pads and things like that. And B, we need to make sure that they're fit for purpose. So there is going to be from learning and development and something we're going to catch up on, a big piece of work looking at how we're going to be more digital in terms of our learning as we move forward. And that may well then tie into like mobile phone apps and things like that, because say, for example, you're on call, is there any reason you can't be sat having a look at maybe a e-learning module actually on your phone, if we can get that sort of digital awareness?
People have been pushing to have access from their phones. Yeah. Instead of we've been drawing them into on-call stations where they've got 2 terminals.
Definitely. And that will then link into the academy, but this is probably a much bigger piece that's for the people services directorate.
Is your point on
I'm
this?
just going to sort of enhance what Serena was saying. We've spec the system.
Okay.
And so Paul and Legat are aware of what we would like ideally. So that's already been factored in conversations in the digital strategy.
Yeah.
And it's a priority project.
Yeah, I was going to echo Lisa really, because there is a piece of work where there's been a little bit of an amalgamation of head of comms and Paul, head of DDA, in order to get this work done. We did review outsourcing it, which came to about 150k, but we think we can do it internally at a cheaper way of getting after this. So that's what we're going to do, and that is part of the bigger piece of work that Paul's taking place within the strategy. So it'll all sort of couple together, I think, as we move forward.
What was that course you said you're oversubscribed for this new, the excellence?
It's leading yourself. So leading yourself has always existed. But it's a bit of like spin doctoring going on, and a bit of sort of releasing it as an exclusive course kind of thing. Well, it is kind of exclusive now, although the appetite was to roll it out quite quickly over a 4-year period and getting courses in sort of once every 2 months and things. The focus has now shifted onto leading others. And while that's sort of ongoing with its being mandated and things, so we reduced it to once a quarter. But because it's reduced to once a quarter, and now all of a sudden people want to be on it. So by making it, So by making it a bit more exclusive and improving the narrative around it, and also bringing in the Dark Swan element, the challenge-based learning, I think because the pilot went really, really well with it, and the excellent feedback that Sean personally had for that as well, and the thank yous. People that from the back of that, people who attended that course took that back, and that's quite unusual as well, to come back from a course and go, I really enjoyed that, I highly recommend you go on it. So that's unusual behaviour for firefighters and lower grades and ranks. It's normally courses are met with, oh, I've got to go on a course, you know, what's this all about? Yeah. But that was the opinion when people came onto the course on Monday. By the Wednesday, they were all coming in early, they were asking what was happening, they were actively participating. And one of the most emotive items of feedback that we had from it was from Sue, who basically runs Cardiff Gate. And she said, I'm only attending this course if I don't have to stand up and speak. By the end of day 1, she was standing up and presenting. Yeah.
I always think with these sorts of courses that the people you want on them, the people that don't want to go on them. Because you get the keen eager beavers, the early adopters, they see, right, this is route 1 to wherever they want to get to, and they get onto it. I guess it's the thing about that needs to sort of just keep rolling out. I noticed you talked about leading with others is mandated. Mandated?
The promotions process.
The promotions process, that is, yeah.
So we've got a lot of people who've been promoted a long time ago, who it's not mandated for, is that right?
It will be
further promotion. It's
further promotion, but you could have someone who's been sat in the saddle for 15 years.
They'll be doing it as well.
They will be, so it's mandated.
Yeah.
And what,
It's a legacy program.
Right. Great, that's really important, because some of the people who've managed to dodge it all and or believe they don't need to come to grips with it. And I think the other thing about technology is that you've got the whole Gen Z lot coming through who expect life on a phone and an iPad, expect that to be part.
Chief's here.
No, it's,
Chief's gone.
That is the best bit of change that Jake has brought.
Is
to
it?
the
that's an efficiency I've made through commissioners.
Okay.
Get that to
Is that the ice cream stand?
It's usually, he's a little bit early, actually. It's usually 11:15, but I'll let him off today. There you go.
Right, so there's my trainer. No. The whole thing, yeah, I did lose my trainer.
Yeah, the people
Yeah.
at legacy.
Mandated.
That part is really important to get the people that have been out doing it, but then it's also about the young people coming in.
Mm.
So they'll have an expectation, but we're still going to have a couple of people who are very used to it the older way, doing technology. So we've got to find a way of getting them on the glide path onto it. It can't be, some people say, I can't deal with the technology, you have to come up with a written version for it. I think we've got to go digital and the whole thing, and people have got to find a way to get onto that digital path. Because we can, otherwise we end up having to come up with different systems for different people, and it's not where the organisation wants to be.
There's a lot of work gone into leading others over the past few months, isn't there? So yeah, there's a lot of work that's gone into that. And including bringing legacy people into it as well.
Because that's all about the junior ranks. That's where the bulk of the organisation sits. That's where the bulk of the issues, or sickness or performance or dealing with performance indicators, all that stuff sits there. So it's really important that they do it. So when you say that the legacy thing, how long can someone have not done a course for before they get?
Everyone's going to be doing it. Every supervisory leader, corporate equivalent, will be doing it.
3 years one.
So we have done some. When we launched Pathways a couple of years ago, all these modules were set in place for all these levels. So the Leading Yourself, that now it's obviously had a revamp, was the first level. But at the time, it was very difficult to get firefighters onto it because quite often they don't get paid to come on to do these courses. And then the Leading Others, then when Pathways launched, we were told to go back 3 years. So in terms of legacy, we went back to those that had actually been promoted within the last 3 years, back trained all of those. And then anybody new then that was coming through promotion. And the issue that we had at the time was the rotas. So that's always been a bit of a sticking point for training, and not just for learning and development, but also for everyone else, is that the capacity to take people off the run to be able to facilitate those sessions has always been tricky. But I think the team's been working together now to have a look at that. I might need to have a catch up.
Two parts of this, and we'll have to put a little on this. Part of the ridership factor includes release for training, doesn't it?
Okay.
Right, yeah. So there's already, whilst it's difficult, part of that factor has got an element there to be able to extract people out. Now, I know there's a whole lot of other reasons, but it is there, so we need to be using it. And we talked about on promotion. So where do we sort of philosophically come down on prior to promotion in terms of developing people's potential? Because there could be some, because in my experience, that most people don't know their leaders. Most people are unaware that they are leaders. They once they get the taste for it, once they get the inkling for it, they can gravitate towards it. I just wonder whether having an early taster thing for a number of people to come on.
Yeah. We did. We've created, and I piloted just before I left. I'm not sure if it's gone anywhere. It was an aspiring leaders program. So we've run a couple of sessions of that.
Do we do that? We do it, but that's for senior staff, isn't it?
Yes, we.
The stuff I've seen people get the panel on.
No,
That's something else.
It's for
Pioneers.
for strategic.
Yeah, that's the speed. So there's 4 levels for every level of the organisation, and then prior to any of that, anybody who thinks, oh, I might like to be a leader, don't really know what it's about, what could that involve for me? And it's a very open and honest conversation in a training setting around what is leadership, because it's not just about the extra money and the badge and the car, it's also about the looking after people. So it's like managing their expectations around.
As a group commander.
Well, sometimes.
You get fire engine, don't you?
Get environment.
Yeah,
Sort of services,
There's a paper going to DMB in April with a 4-year delivery plan mapped out. And in that delivery plan, there's, I think there's 50 placements for aspiring leaders to access the Leading Others pathway. So some of it will be absorbed through the legislative release. Unfortunately, it's not going to be all be able to be absorbed through that, because we targeted the legacy individuals as well. So we plan to deliver 5 courses in this financial year, and then pick up speed then in the following 3 financial years. But in terms of so for example, the supervisory tech test, at the moment, we have 51 applicants for this round of tech testing. 41 have gone through to the actual tech test. Some people have dropped out for a number of reasons. We've got to factor that 41 aspiring uniformed individuals into this program, along with corporate equivalents.
Yeah.
So it is part of the schedule rolling.
We did, sorry to interrupt, we did for the Leading Yourself, the Foundations of Excellence, we did change the narrative around it, that if you are looking to aspire to go into leadership of some description, I mean, that could be, you know, inside of work, outside of work, then we did change the narrative and pop the sentence in there to reflect that as well. So if people were thinking about, you know, going on a journey, so we want everybody to come on it, we want everybody to go on it eventually, because it's the people's program, basically. But we did put a narrative in there that would encourage people that if they were thinking about promotion, then this is the very first stage.
Right. So, of course, you said that Sue went on.
Sue Avery, yeah.
I was speaking at the end. That strikes me that would have been quite an emotionally intensive course. It changed the. So is that scalable then? Can it be scaled? Because do you lose the sort of the stuff in the.
Well, at the moment, we've had quite a few meetings with Kev Yates, and so in order to schedule the next courses in on a quarterly basis around staffing, so the people that have come in, so we've got a mix of ops and corporate as well. So people have been gone through their line managers and have been signed off to attend this course. So it's not, there's no overtime related to it at all. So it's literally.
I think what I was probably getting at was the emotional input by the facilitators and the people there. That's difficult to scale sometimes.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Because it's not it. Sort of say we're going to run 15 courses.
Yeah,
like that.
capacity is going to be an issue, and that's something I'm probably going to need to touch base with Neil, because even doing the legacy work, because I haven't been around, we probably can't sort of commit one trainer to that, because they've got all the other learning and development work that they're going to need to do, because we've got lots to do on coaching and inductions and stuff like that. So we're going to need to find an operating way to upscale for legacy, but then also if we want to do that with any other program, it's always going to be down to capacity of trainers, I think, with any course, not necessarily learning and development.
Really, my last point on this then, really, it goes back to supply versus demand. Are we designing on the basis of what we're able to supply, or are we designing on the basis of what the demand is out there?
Both. So in 2019 and 20, I did quite a robust training needs analysis for the organisation, and it was all built around kind of our values at the time, and also around the leadership framework that had just come in from the NFCC. And what we looked at is how competent people felt that they were in these particular roles and what they felt that they needed. And on the basis of that, that's how those programmes came about, which we wrote over those subsequent years. So they were all matched to the big things around kinds of culture. They were matched around some of the equality and diversity, how we treat people, and then a lot of stuff around coaching and mentoring and having difficult conversations. So there was a lot around that. And on the back of it, whatever we couldn't put into that course, we've actually then taken out and put as masterclasses. There was a big field for things like emotional intelligence, project management, and we mapped that at every level, which is where the pathways came from. So the pathways then was a robust structure of, if you're at this level, you do these programs because these people told us this is what you need. If you're leading others and you're supervisory, you do this. If you're leading the function in the middle, you do that. And then the pioneer then for the top level for sort of more those aspiring for SLT. We had 1 year rollout of that, and I will be honest that year was when we had an interim chief, and it did get mixed around a little bit at the time, so we haven't had the chance to fully embed it, which is great now that we've been able to revamp it, and with George in the academy as well, some of that has kind of rolled a bit further forward.
Right. So the academy thing, a lot's expected from this. There's sort of found there's a big expectation, and now you're starting to see there's changes in behaviour. It's really important. So I'm guessing it's a direct link between all of this and the people plan and the metrics in there, because they would feed into a lot of these metrics.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was just quickly if you come back
You
to it.
have the academy metrics in here somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Page 27.
27. Yeah. Okay. You've got a full set of metrics really already.
So we're working with George on, so we've got development metrics, but specific around the academy.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think about everything that's in there talks about all these metrics. That's aspirational at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to drive it down to public place. Okay, forward work programme for us. Does anyone have any?
This is tricky because normally I'd give you a list of what's coming to your next meeting, and I don't know what the new strategy is going to be. So
There's going to be a meeting, whether it's us or someone else.
yeah, but what topics need to be reported in the fallout in terms of reference for this particular. So I didn't want to just publish a document which is just a finger in the air. Particularly as we're so what I have done instead is I've scheduled the Board of Commissioners meeting 22nd of May, which is an extraordinary meeting, and I don't want to overdo the term mop up, but I do feel that that's a great opportunity to look at all those outstanding recommendations and do some final reporting on those, so that we can get to a point where the reporting to the new fire authority is business as usual, rather than all this extra stuff that we've been working our way through. So yeah, I think that was the best way to go for these papers. I know it lacks detail for you at this stage, but the detail will be everywhere.
Okay, right. I've not been informed of anything that's considered material or urgent to raise. Right, okay, any items to report back to the BOC? I suppose this one I'd want to make sure we took back to the BOC would be your report on the sixth absence. So we need to get something in that so that I can just mention that, just a paragraph of what we've said. So when it comes to that point on the agenda, with the commissioners, is there anything to feedback to this one thing? But essentially it's about a group being formed by the DEP to look at this. Context would be we're one of the worst performing brigades in the country. We've got a task group formed by the DEP, and there's an awful lot of work that's going on in the background, policies, processes, notwithstanding these things need to be implemented and delivered by people. Okay. Reflections on the meeting. We didn't speak about quiet, quick. Everyone feel they had a chance to say what they needed to say?
Yeah, I think so, Chair. I think once you said you were feeling lonely, I think that brought people up the chair a little bit.
I think it's an unusual situation to have a team run by one person. You know, your governing body would have many more people at a committee. So you're in an unusual position. It's just you.
It's been like this for 2 years. And my experience on fire authority meetings means most of the councillors don't speak. Only few that speak.
We are looking at the training, so Welsh LGA are helping with designing that.
Okay, right. There being nothing else, we're good. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.